The year was 1922. The hot, damp air hung heavy in the Valley of the Kings, deep in Egypt. It was very dark inside the tunnel, a place hidden for thousands of years. An English explorer, Howard Carter, knelt before a sealed door made of plaster. His hands were not steady. They shook a little as he carefully chipped away at the old plaster. Each small piece that fell off added to the deep silence around him. Everyone nearby held their breath, waiting for what lay beyond. This was a moment of great anticipation. Carter had searched for years for a king's tomb that others said was not there. Now he was about to find it. He made a small hole in the door, just big enough to look through. He lifted a candle. Its small flame flickered against 3,000 years of darkness. He took a deep breath. What he saw next would change history. He saw many wonderful things. The light from his candle showed shapes of strange animals, statues, and most brightly of all, the glint of gold. Everywhere he looked, there was gold. It was a sight no human had seen for thousands of years. When his friend, Lord Carnarvon, asked what he saw, Carter only whispered, "Yes, wonderful things." But the true story of this discovery was not just about these riches. The tomb belonged to a young king named Tutankhamun. He was just a teenager when he died, around 19 years old. After his death, his own people tried to erase him from history. They removed his name from important stones and writings. He was a small, frail king, almost forgotten by his own world. So how did this young, forgotten boy, who was meant to vanish, become the most famous face from ancient times? How did he become a legend known all over the modern world? This book will take you on a journey to find out. We will not just look at the shining gold treasures. We will learn about the sad human story behind the famous golden mask. We will travel back to a time of political chaos in ancient Egypt. We will follow King Tut through his short life, his sudden death, and how he was hidden. Then we will see how modern science helped uncover new truths. This is the story of how a minor king rose from obscurity to become a giant of history, a true symbol of ancient wonders, showing us discovery from ancient times to today. 2. A world in trouble. Tutankhamun was born around 1341 BCE into a world filled with chaos and radical change. His father, Pharaoh Amenhotep IV, decided to change his name to Akhenaten. He then started a huge revolution in Egyptian religion. For more than 1,000 years, Egyptians had worshipped many gods, like Amun, Ra, Osiris, and Isis. These gods were important for everything: the Nile River's flood, the harvest, and even the health of children. Big temples stood everywhere, and powerful priests cared for them. But Akhenaten tore all these traditions apart. He declared that there was only one true God, Aten, the shining sun disk. He ordered the closing of all temples dedicated to the old gods. People could no longer perform their usual religious rituals or pray to the deities they had known for centuries. This was not a small change. It was a massive upheaval for Egyptian society. Priests lost their great wealth and influence. Ordinary families felt lost and worried as their connection to the afterlife and daily blessings seemed broken. This period brought great religious extremism and widespread social collapse, threatening the very stability of the mighty Egyptian empire. Akhenaten also abandoned Thebes, the ancient capital. He built a completely new city in the desert, far from everything old. He called it Akhetaten, which we know today as Amarna. This strange, isolated city became the home for his new religion. It was here, in this unusual place, that young Tutankhamun grew up. His birth name was Tutankhaten, showing honor to Akhenaten's god, Aten. As a child, he played in a city that was a symbol of his father's extreme beliefs. He was likely unaware of the enormous problems his family had caused for the country. He had no idea that he was destined to clean up a mess of truly biblical proportions. The empire faced deep troubles. People missed their old gods. The army was losing power. After nearly 20 years, Akhenaten died. His death left a huge and dangerous power vacuum. There was no clear, strong leader to take his place. This meant that many powerful people might fight for control. Into this chaotic situation stepped a boy of just 9 years old, Tutankhamun. He was now king. This child had the immense responsibility of guiding Egypt. He would have to reverse his father's radical changes and bring back the old ways. It was an incredibly complex and difficult task for such a young ruler. The weight of his world was now on his small shoulders. (3) The young ruler. Tutankhamun became king when he was only 9 years old. This was a very difficult time for Egypt. His father, Akhenaten, had changed everything, moving the capital and banning the old gods. Egypt was in chaos. Now, young Tutankhamun had a big job. He needed to make things normal again and bring peace back to the land. He had to bring back the ancient gods and move the capital away from Akhenaten's desert city, returning it to a more traditional center. This was immense pressure for a child. He was meant to be a living god, but in reality he was very young and physically frail. Powerful older men guided him. Their names were Ai and Horemheb. These men were his chief advisors. They held much power and likely made most of the important decisions for the young king. He was still a child, learning to rule, so he was heavily influenced by them. One of the first and most urgent tasks was the restoration of the old religion. To show this change, Tutankhamun changed his own name. Before, it honored Aten.
Now, it honored Amun, the main traditional god of Egypt. His queen's name also changed to reflect this return to old ways. Around his 3rd year as king, the capital moved to Memphis, which was a very important city in Egypt's history. This move clearly showed that the Aten cult was abandoned. Temples across Egypt were opened again. Statues of the old gods, which had been destroyed or hidden, were rebuilt. Priests got their important jobs back and could perform their duties once more. The elaborate ritual calendar, which had been stopped under Akhenaten, was reinstated. For many Egyptians, this was a great relief. It felt like cosmic order was restored and their world was right again. The people had prayed to these gods for centuries, and now their king had brought the gods home. As king, Tutankhamun would have taken part in many religious ceremonies and grand festivals. He also enjoyed royal activities. He went on hunting trips, learned how to ride horses, and trained to drive chariots. He practiced military skills, though we are not sure if he truly fought in wars. Paintings from his tomb show him winning battles, but these might just be artistic ideas of a powerful king. His reign, for all its historical meaning, was very short. He died around 19 years old. The big question that historians still ask is who was truly in charge during this time? Was it the young King Tutankhamun, who was only a boy?
Or was it the powerful men like Ai and Horemheb, the puppet masters standing in the shadows behind the throne, pulling the strings? This period was full of intrigue and hidden power struggles. These advisors guided Egypt, even as the young king sat on its golden throne, trying to put his troubled country back together. 4. A sudden end. Tutankhamun was only 19 years old when he died. His death was sudden and suspicious. People wondered why the young king passed away so early. He had no children to take his place. 2 baby mummies found in his tomb were believed to be his daughters, both born dead. Because his death was unexpected, his burial was hasty. His tomb was quite small. It was probably not built for a king at first. More than 5,000 valuable items filled this small space. These treasures were put inside in a very disorganized way. This shows his advisors had little time to get things ready. They simply put everything they could into the available space, creating a beautiful but messy collection. This quick burial meant his tomb was not as grand or carefully planned as those of other pharaohs. After Tutankhamun's death, powerful men like Ai and then General Horemheb took the throne. They wanted to make people forget the time of Akhenaten, Tutankhamun's father. That time was full of religious changes and much chaos for Egypt. So these new rulers made a deliberate choice to remove Tutankhamun from history.
They started a process known as damnatio memoriae. This means they tried to completely erase Tutankhamun's name and memory. They removed his name from stone monuments. They wrote their own names over his royal symbols, called cartouches. They wanted to pretend that Tutankhamun and his father's time never happened. His successors worked hard to wipe out all records of him. He was not just forgotten, he was actively made to disappear from the official story of Egypt. This plan worked for a very long time. Tutankhamun vanished from human memory for about 3,000 years. His small tomb was hidden under sand and rocks. Workers building the tomb of another king, Ramesses VI, later covered its entrance completely. This protected it from tomb robbers who stole from almost every other royal burial. His tomb lay hidden and forgotten, waiting. It waited quietly in the desert, under centuries of dust and debris, for a persistent Englishman to finally find him and bring his story back to the world. 5. The Long Search. Many years after Tutankhamun's burial, the world had changed greatly. It was now the early 1900s. People believed there were no more secrets left in the Valley of the Kings, a place where many pharaohs were buried. Most of the tombs had been found and their treasures taken, either by old robbers or by earlier archaeologists. People thought that Tutankhamun was a small, unimportant king. But one man did not agree.
His name was Howard Carter. He was an Englishman born in 1874. Carter came to Egypt when he was a teenager. He spent many years learning about the Valley of the Kings. He was a very skilled archaeologist, but he needed money for his work. Carter found a wealthy patron named Lord Carnarvon. Lord Carnarvon was an important man from a rich family. He loved old Egyptian things and helped Carter with money. He also spent winters in Egypt because he was not very healthy after a car accident. In 1914, Lord Carnarvon received the concession to dig in the Valley of the Kings. Carter and Carnarvon began a long search for Tutankhamun's tomb. It was hard work under the hot sun, always dusty. Year after year, they found nothing important. People in the scientific community began to ridicule Carter, saying the valley was empty. The First World War also stopped their work for some time. By 1922, Lord Carnarvon was tired of spending money with no results. He told Carter that this would be their last season of searching. If they found nothing this time, the dig would stop forever. Carter begged for one last chance, and Lord Carnarvon agreed. On November 1st, 1922, Carter started digging in a new area, near the tomb of King Ramses VI. 3 days later, on a Saturday morning, his Egyptian workers were strangely quiet.
One of the foremen, Ahmed Garagar, told Carter they had found something. It was a step cut into the bedrock, hidden under some old huts. Carter immediately understood the great magnitude of this find. He ordered the workers to cover the step again to keep it safe. He then sent a telegram to Lord Carnarvon, who was in England. The message said, "At last we have made wonderful discovery in Valley, a magnificent tomb with seals intact. Recovered same for your arrival. Congratulations." Lord Carnarvon left immediately for Egypt with his daughter, Lady Evelyn Herbert. He arrived in Luxor by November 23rd. The next day, the steps were fully excavated. There were 16 steps leading to a sealed doorway. On the door, they could clearly see the royal seal of Tutankhamun. Inside the room, on the evening of November 26, 1922, Howard Carter, Lord Carnarvon, and Lady Evelyn Herbert stood at a special threshold. They were about to open a sealed chamber that had been untouched for more than 3,000 years. Carter made a small hole in the plaster wall. He put a candle inside and peered through the darkness. He could see amazing things. Strange animals, statues, and gold, he later wrote. Everywhere the glint of gold. Lord Carnarvon, eager to know, asked if he could see anything. Carter simply replied, "Yes, wonderful things." The first room they saw was the antechamber. It was packed with beautiful items piled high.
There were gold-covered chariots, large golden statues, and beautifully carved stone pots made of alabaster. Furniture with shining decorations, and many pieces of precious jewelry filled the space. The items were placed precariously, likely by ancient workers who quickly resealed the tomb after robbers had tried to enter it centuries ago. This hurried but effective work saved most of the treasures from being stolen forever. The tomb itself, known as KV62, was quite small for a king. It was probably made for someone else and quickly used for Tutankhamun because he died so young and suddenly. More than 5,000 objects were crammed into its limited space, creating a sense of magnificent chaos. The throne found in the antechamber, showing the king and queen in a loving scene, was called one of the most beautiful objects of art ever discovered. To safely remove and protect these fragile treasures, Carter began a very careful and methodical process.
Every single item was photographed exactly where it was found. Harry Burton, a skilled British photographer, helped record every tiny detail. This huge task took a long time, about 10 years, to completely clear everything from the tomb. It was not until 1925 that the burial chamber itself was finally opened. Inside, there were several shrines and 3 nested coffins. The innermost coffin was made of solid gold. When Carter finally unwrapped the linen bandages, he found the mummy of the young king.
On his face was a magnificent solid gold death mask. It was very heavy, made of 45 pounds of gold and inlaid with beautiful blue, red, and black stones. The mask showed a young man with a peaceful, serene face. This golden face would become the most famous image from the ancient world, haunting the 20th century. The discovery was not just an archaeological find, it was a huge global event, a media earthquake. The world was ready for something wonderful after the First World War, and this tomb provided it. News spread fast thanks to detailed photographs and global newspapers. Even the King and Queen of England wanted constant updates. Soon, Egyptian styles appeared in fashion houses, popular music, and home decor. Tutankhamun, once erased from history, became known as King Tut to millions across the world. His golden face, discovered deep inside that small room, would forever capture the human imagination, bridging ancient mystery with modern wonder. After the tomb's opening, people talked a lot about magic. Lord Carnarvon, the man who paid for the dig, died a few months later. He was bitten by a mosquito. Then he got an infection and pneumonia. The newspapers quickly wrote about a curse of the pharaohs. They said the tomb's magic killed him. People believed strange stories. Some even said an evil spirit protected the mummy. More deaths of people connected to the tomb were reported, making the curse seem very real.
But scientists and doctors looked at the facts. Lord Carnarvon had been ill for many years because of a car accident. He was already fragile and often got lung problems. So his death was sad, but it had a clear medical reason. It was not magic or a curse. This showed a clear difference between what people believed and what science could prove. Also, many other people who visited the tomb lived long lives. Howard Carter, who found the tomb, lived for many more years and died when he was 64. Lord Carnarvon's daughter, Lady Evelyn, lived until she was 78. The idea of a curse was just a fun story for the newspapers. In truth, mold and bacteria in old tombs could cause health issues for people who were already sick, but this was a small risk. Then, modern science began to look at King Tutankhamun himself. For a long time, some people thought he was murdered. An X-ray in the 1960s showed something in his skull. This made some think he was hit on the head. But later, clearer CT scans showed the truth. The hole in his skull was made during the mummification process after he died. This new information debunks the idea that he was killed. Scientists also used DNA tests and CT scans on Tutankhamun's mummy. They found sad truths about his life. He was born with a problem in his mouth called a cleft palate. He also had a clubfoot, which caused him much pain. This bone problem in his foot was called Kohler's disease.
In his tomb, more than 130 walking sticks were found. They were not new, they had been used a lot.
This shows that the young king had trouble walking and needed help every day. The image of a strong warrior king, often shown in old paintings, was not real. Instead, he was a frail boy who suffered from constant pain. The 2010 study found even more. King Tut had malaria, a serious illness spread by mosquitoes. He had caught malaria many times. In ancient Egypt, malaria was often fatal, and there was no medicine for it. Scientists think malaria, combined with his weak bones and maybe a broken leg, was the real cause of his early death. The DNA tests also showed that his parents were brother and sister. This incestuous relationship was common in royal families then to keep bloodlines pure. However, it also meant that Tutankhamun had a weak genetic inheritance. This inbreeding likely caused his many health problems and shortened his life. So the complete picture we have now is of a young king who lived a life full of physical challenges and constant pain. His early death was a tragedy of health, caused by severe illnesses and his own weak body, not a mystery of murder or a magic curse from ancient times. 8. The king lives on. It is strange how history works. After King Tutankhamun died, another ruler named Horemheb tried to erase him completely. Horemheb wanted people to forget Tutankhamun's name and the troubled time he lived in.
He had Tutankhamun's name removed from important stones. Horemheb thought he was making Tutankhamun disappear forever. But this act of erasing actually saved Tutankhamun. By making his name unimportant, Horemheb also made people ignore his tomb. Other, bigger tombs were robbed over many centuries, but Tutankhamun's small tomb lay hidden under sand. Workers building Ramesses VI's tomb accidentally covered its entrance. This kept it safe from robbers who stole from almost every other royal burial. This was a great twist of fate. The attempt to erase Tutankhamun's memory became the reason his treasures were kept intact. His tomb was found almost untouched. It gave us a rare look into ancient Egypt, their beliefs, way of life, and burial customs. The thousands of objects taught us much about royal life 3,000 years ago. In the 1970s, the world saw the wonders of Tutankhamun's tomb. Millions visited the Treasures of Tutankhamun exhibitions. These shows helped create the idea of the blockbuster museum exhibition. Today, Tutankhamun's legacy continues at the Grand Egyptian Museum near Giza. All 5,000 objects from his tomb will be shown together there. In his life, Tutankhamun was a minor king. He ruled only for a short time, helping bring back old gods and peace to Egypt. But in death, he became much bigger than anyone could have imagined. He became a giant in history, connecting the ancient world with our modern one.
His golden mask is a face that still makes people stop and marvel. It is a symbol of a time long past. He was forgotten, then found. He was erased, then glorified. The boy king helped heal his broken country, and now he lives on, a bridge between worlds. He lets us feel a connection to those who lived and loved long ago. He became something no pharaoh could have planned. What do you find most interesting about King Tutankhamun's story?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.